so we can enjoy the pleasure of your company today. Are you guys ready? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being here, one and all. My name is Cynthia Lummis, and I am the chairman of the Sam Galeotos for Governor campaign. Now, it's one of the last things that I thought I would be doing this year. I thought I would be enjoying a respite from politics to recover from it. But you know, Wyoming is really at a tipping point. We are at a different place than we've been in a long time. And we need to address issues that we haven't had to deal with in a very long time, or at least that we have put off dealing with for a long time. And it has to do with business growth. It has to do with really making a firm commitment to the business climate, to the ability of entrepreneurs to come here and succeed here and work here and thrive here and hire people here. There is one candidate in this race that has the unique background and exceptional abilities to do that. And that's Sam Galeotos, and that's why I couldn't resist. I had to sign up and get involved. Wyoming just needs an exceptional leader right now. Wyoming deserves exceptional leadership. And with Sam Galeotos, we have that opportunity. Sam has walked the walk. He has succeeded in very large business organizations. He knows how to go in and assess situations and turn things around, or to take the talent that is in place and inspire it and utilize it and get it moving in the right place. Sam Galeotos really is a secret weapon for Wyoming. So I absolutely am delighted to be associated with his campaign. Now, speaking of the people that are inspiring each other and advising each other and informing each other to drive this very climate of entrepreneurism, this spirit that is so important to Wyoming as we move forward. That's why we're here today. And the people that are standing behind me are some of those superstars that will be assisting in that effort. So without further ado, I want to introduce the inspiration for all this. I call him Wyoming's secret weapon for business, and that's Sam Galeotos.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you very much. And, you know, when you get introductions like that, you almost have to consider not saying anything going forward because you could mess it up really bad. I want to thank Cynthia for the great introduction. I want to thank her for her support. She's been very motivational to me, and as I continue to look at how we move our campaign forward and what are the best things for the state of Wyoming. I want to thank all of you for attending with us today, and really appreciate you taking the time in the middle of the day. It's beautiful here in Casper, and it looks like it's going to be that way the rest of the summer. First and foremost, as most of you know, the state is handling some very significant challenges right now. We have this $1 billion deficit that we're currently wrestling with. By all indicators, it appears that not only our next budget cycle, but many more into the future, we'll be wrestling with this $1 billion structural deficit, and it may be even worse from the account of many people. I think the general consensus is that we'll probably see some uplifts in our economy due to uplift in the energy sector, but overall it appears that we're going to have some challenges going forward, and the road is going to be a little bit turbulent. All of this billion deficit has begun to cascade down throughout the state. As we all know, it's putting pressure on our education system, it's putting pressure on our local communities, it's putting pressure on our state agencies, and how we deliver services to the general population in Wyoming. And I think it's pretty clear that we need to acknowledge that right now. We do have a problem, and we need to do something very aggressive and begin to create long-term sustainable economic growth in this state. I firmly believe the answer is going to come from the private sector in our state. The answer to long-term sustainable economic growth will come from our private sector. And with this in mind, we have now formed a business advisory roundtable team to explore with me and to work with me how we can get the private sector to drive solutions for economic growth in our state. And as a result of that, I'd like to introduce you to some of our team. Not all of them are here today. And then I'd like to make a few additional comments. This is a powerhouse group of some of Wyoming's best and brightest minds in the business world. Wyoming's future lies in how we're able to grow not only our existing core industries, but more importantly, how are we going to develop new industries and have economic growth throughout the state. This team of people that we have assembled are the men and women who have just done that and look forward to creating more opportunities in Wyoming. And I'd like to introduce them to you. First and foremost, we have Rex Lewis, who is with us today, president of Puma Steel from Cheyenne. Mike Wandler, who's the president of L&H Industrial in Gillette. He's not able to join us today. Carrie Bruce, CEO of the McMurray Companies based here in Casper. Mike Kometz, founder of IDES out of Laramie. Fred DeVore, owner of Peterbilt of Wyoming, based here in Casper. Fred is with us today. Also, Tony Young, our CIO of the state of Wyoming, down in Cheyenne. Gordon Allison, who is the owner of Basin Mechanical and a big construction and real estate developer out of Cody. Carolyn Shaner, who is with the Shaner Group. Tucker Fagan, who joins us today, our former CEO of the Wyoming Business Council and a former Strategic Air Command Wing Commander and Vice Commander of the 20th Air Force. Ron Kenzie, founder and president of Kennan Products, Inc. in Sheridan. Steve Dagenfelder, who is with us today, Kirkwood Oil and Gas, LLC, out of Casper. Linda Wepner in the real estate industry, broker and owner of Century 21 Bell Real Estate in Cheyenne. Jason Kinsler, founder of Pitch Engine in Riverton. Jared Stack, CEO Firehole Composites, both in Casper and in Laramie. Del Tinsley, former owner of the Wyoming Livestock Roundup and former Wyoming director of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development. He's based in Wheatland. Tim Ward, owner of Ward Agribusiness out of Hillsdale. And Aaron Moore, CEO of Gannett Peak Technical Services, based in Cheyenne. I would also be remiss if I did not thank Bob Jensen, a friend of mine, former Wyoming Business Council leader, who has helped me in assembling this team of people. Bob, thank you. The announcement of this roundtable is only the first step, in my mind. If we were going to grow Wyoming's economy, we need everybody to participate. And I want to encourage anybody else that is interested in joining us and helping us to shape the future policy of Wyoming and where we want to take Wyoming into the future. The big question is, how do we move forward from where we're at today? First, we need to aggressively move to mitigate the deficit that we have standing in front of us. Second, we need to position our state for success in the future. And I'd like to talk a lot about that today. But first, I believe the quickest way to begin addressing our current challenges begins with addressing how we operate in state government. Our legislature has commissioned 2 efficiency studies that outline both revenue and spending opportunities cutting of some wasteful spending, and promoting the development of more revenue. Our solution begins with getting our state government in order and ready for the future. We must also move briskly to clear away all the obstacles that we have for our energy partners right now. As I've traveled the state and I've talked with executives in our mining and drilling industry, I find that there's a great deal of red tape, not only at the federal level, but at the state level. And we need to move briskly to begin to remove some of this red tape and get the government out of the way so that our producers can produce more today, which is beneficial for them and beneficial for our state, and in many instances, beneficial for our education system. Thirdly, we need to put the metal to the ground on travel and tourism. We need to ramp up our efforts in travel and tourism exponentially. Right now, when you look at it, we need to raise our share of voice. We need to promote our state more broadly within the rest of the country, and we need to look to bring more visitors to our state who spend a lot of money when they're here. We also need to look at opportunities to extend their stay when they come. As I've traveled around to all of the different counties, the leadership in those counties and the business community can outline for you all the opportunities that we have in outdoor rec and in leveraging the assets that the state has given us as far as bringing and drawing tourism to our state. But growing our core industries is not only imperative, but it will help us both short and long term. So what about the future? And that's where I'd like to shift gears a little bit. How are we going to achieve broader economic growth? How are we going to diversify our economic base? What jobs do we need to be creating in Wyoming right now to keep not only Wyoming competitive, but our kids and our grandkids? What skills does our education system need to teach our kids in order to be competitive not only in life, but in the jobs that we need to create and be competitive right here at home in Wyoming? You know, I entered the travel technology industry back in the early 80s. And that was right on the heels of airline deregulation in the country. Deregulation is when the government finally took away the restrictions and the rules for who could compete in what market and what price they needed to charge. In the early 80s, that was in the late 70s, the early 80s, technology began to take over as a result of that. Over the course of 16 to 18 years, the entire travel and tourism industry was totally transformed by technology. If you'll recall, in those days, you pick up the telephone and you would make a telephone call to book your hotel or your airline or your car. We don't pick up the telephone anymore to do that. We go to our computers and we do it ourselves. There's not anybody else on the end of the line. If you'll recall, when you went to board an airplane, you used to have a stack of red carbon duplicate paper tickets. Today, we don't have tickets anymore. Back in the early 80s, there were tens of thousands of travel agencies across this country where you would go to make your travel reservations. Look around, there's not very many travel agencies anymore. All of that transformation took place in really the brief time of 15 to 18 years. An entire industry was totally transformed. Jobs were transformed. Technology drove where we're at today. And to survive that dramatic transformation, the companies I worked with had to live in the future to a certain degree in order to make sure we were prepared for what technology was going to bring to the world. And I believe that for the benefit of our kids and our grandkids and the long-term viability of our state, we need to begin living in the future a little bit. Look what Uber did in the course of just a couple of years to the hired car industry. Uber totally transformed an industry, the taxi industry, the hired car industry, totally transformed it in but a few years. I've said before, I have learned that technology is not only the great equalizer in this world, it is the great enabler. And we need to begin thinking about how technology is going to impact the state of Wyoming, our kids, our grandkids, and the jobs that we're going to produce in this state. Let's think about the future for just a moment. Right now, if you have a child or a grandchild that is 12 years or under, they don't even know a world without a touch screen. They do not know a world without a touch screen. Right now, we're on the verge of driverless tractors, driverless cars, driverless trucks. We're going to have microchipped plants in the field telling us what parts of the field need attention, what the nutrients are, what the nutrition requirements are. Telehealth, telemedicine, and remote diagnostics of ourselves for our health care is rolling out as we stand here today. Cybersecurity, blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics are all going to transform everything we do. As I've considered this, I ponder what that's going to mean for our state, and more importantly, how are we going to participate in this huge transformation that is going to take place not only in our core industries, but in all industries across the nation. How is that going to impact our kids and our grandkids looking into the future? One observation that I have, many of the times we are challenged in the state of Wyoming by the fact that we have a low population base and we are very rural. But as you look at it closely, that low population base and that rural nature can be turned into a strength for our state. We need to leapfrog ahead into some of these new technologies and these new industries. I would suggest healthcare as an example. Right now, healthcare is a huge problem for our state because we're lowly populated and we're rural. But that low population and rural nature makes us the perfect laboratory to get involved with the technologies that are coming on the forefront, and we should be innovating in Wyoming and driving healthcare solutions right here in our state because we have a low population and a rural base. I can make the same case over and over again, whether we look at agriculture, travel and tourism, the energy industry, manufacturing, education, or for that matter, even the business of government itself. We are the perfect laboratory, and we have the perfect opportunity to grasp a hold of technology and leapfront to the forefront of what's going on in all of these industries. On another front, we're beginning to see a huge outpouring of knowledge-based jobs, and I'll say that again, jobs, a huge outpouring of knowledge-based jobs transitioning from our coast to Middle America. My question is, how is Wyoming prepared to participate in this phenomenon that's taking place? Some of the most important jobs of the future don't even exist today. We don't even know what they are. 10 years, 15 years, all of this technology, whether it's in healthcare or in energy or in agriculture, are going to be totally different than they are today. That is Wyoming's opportunity. We need to live in the future, and we need to take technology and begin to be at the forefront and provide solutions and be innovative in our state, taking advantage of our rural nature and our low population, because all of these technologies are going to need to be developed and tested in an environment just like Wyoming. Every industry we are in right now or rely upon is going to change substantially and is going to experience massive change because of technology. I see this as a huge opportunity to shift gears and really set a new course for the state of Wyoming. We need to take care of our core industries. We need to protect them. We need to continue to grow them. We need to be aggressive in protecting them against some of the negative impacts that are taking place more broadly in our society and culture. But at the same time, we need to begin thinking about where are we taking Wyoming? How are we going to create jobs that will be viable in the new economy? And how are we going to prepare our kids and our grandkids to take those jobs? They are higher paying jobs, they are knowledge-based jobs, and we need to get involved and we need to drive that. I suggest all of the industries that we're involved with today, especially like healthcare, where we have problems and we're seeking solutions, we need to position Wyoming as the driver of those solutions, and we need to deploy them here, and then they will be taken from here and used elsewhere around the country. I want to thank our Business Roundtable group for volunteering their time with me. We've had a great call to start ourselves off. We're anticipating having more of those. I want to thank them for wanting to be involved in shifting the gears and defining an exciting and prosperous future for the state of Wyoming. I look forward to continuing and expanding this dialogue, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. Lastly, I want to introduce you to my lovely wife, Stacy, my daughter, Isabella, and Nicolette, who have now joined me on the campaign trail and will be going around and helping me spread the word about thinking about the future of Wyoming and growing Wyoming and having it become a prosperous state where we're not so much on the boom and bust, but really thinking about the future. And thank you for all of you for being here today to join us. Thanks.